Order! Order! You are an incorrigible delinquent at times. Behave yourself, man!
The UK's inflation rate stayed at 2.3% in March, but may well have risen if it hadn't been for the timing of Easter. Food prices in March were 1.2% higher than last year, the biggest annual rise for 3 years. It all begs the question of whether inflation is now set to rise in the coming months. Our business editor, Siobhan Kennedy, reports.
Consumers, it's our spending that's held the economy up since last June's Brexit vote. Yet slowly but surely, the effects of the falling pound are starting to be felt on Britain's high streets. From clothing and shoes to food and fuel, prices are rising and spending is slowing. Are you curbing your spending?
Well, I'm with my grandchildren buying some Easter, and I have noticed the children's clothes have actually gone up quite a bit. We've been to a couple of stores today.
Are you worried about inflation rising?
Yes, I think everybody is, yeah, because my salary isn't going up, so it is a bit of a concern.
I think prices are rising, actually,
yeah,
interestingly enough.
Everything's rising.
You felt that, have you?
Yeah.
Particularly food.
The headline inflation figure held steady, but higher prices are hurting the high street. Figures from the British Retail Consortium showed spending on everything bar food fell by nearly 1%, the biggest drop in nearly 6 years, while spending on food rose 1.2% in the same period, driven by the first annual rise in food prices in 3 years. Inflation may not have risen this month, but there are some worrying underlying signs for the economy. For starters, consumers have begun to slow their spending at a rate not seen in years. And the one thing they are spending money on, food, well, those prices have begun to rise for the first time in years. So unless wages begin to grow and/or the pound starts to rise, then the problem for consumers on the high street probably won't go away anytime soon. Falling airfares did help out a bit this month, but overall, food, drink and fuel continued to push prices up.
So what we've got is a real triple crunch at the moment. So we've got wages haven't grown in 10 years. That's unprecedented historically. It's incredibly slow wage growth. We're also seeing an increase in inflation. And at the same time, because people aren't able to buy the essentials that they need, people are beginning to go to more and more to consumer loans. So that's loans on credit cards, payday loans, often very high cost loans. So it's really beginning to feel the crunch in households.
And the result is, as we're seeing today with the BRC data, the consumer data, that people are just stopping spending, they're slowing their spending at quite an alarming rate.
And what you can see is that people are particularly slowing their spending on non-essential goods. So if you think about it from a household perspective, this might be a family who can't afford an extra present for their child, can't afford perhaps a holiday this year, but of course your priorities continue to be putting food on the table and having a roof over your head. So those things are areas that we're not seeing a decline in spending.
It's not all doom and gloom though. Spending online saw a big increase this month, which partially offset the decline in stores, while data from Barclaycard showed we spent a lot more in restaurants, hotels and pubs in March. But with prices continuing to rise, the question is whether that pocket of spending, just like the high street, will gradually start to come under pressure too.
And Siobhan joins me now. So good news for now that inflation has remained steady.
Well, yes, but remember, Jackie, that the benign inflation number we saw today is largely, one of the reasons is because Easter is late this year. So the spending that we typically associate with Easter, increased airfares as people go away, etc., won't come through until April. So economists are expecting inflation to tick above the 2.3% next month compared to March. Now, how well we cope with those rising prices will depend on how much you and I and everybody gets paid. Tomorrow we will get some key wage data, official wage data for the 3 months to February. And the news won't be good. It's expected that the annual growth in wages will have fallen back a little bit to 2.1%, crucially below that 2.3% inflation figure, which means, you know, we'll all feel the pinch and our real-term wage packets will fall effectively. Economists therefore worry that we'll react to that by spending less, by putting the squeeze even further on the high street and the economy.
Siobhan, thanks very much.
I've been getting away with it all.